Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another True Crime Time with Junebug. That's me, and Happy New Year! Well, it's December 29th when I'm recording this, but this ain't getting out to you guys until the new year. Life be crazy right now. But as another proof that I am recording this before the new year, the tree... Anyway, today, this case, again, I thought it was another fake Snapchat story. I need to stay away from those. But when I dug into it, nope, it's horrifically real. And it hurts my heart, and this woman is just an absolute monster. Yes, a woman, for a slight change of pace, I guess. So, I guess let's just get into it. So today, also sorry, we did get a new furnace. I don't know if that means it's gonna be louder or quieter on video, but I'm not gonna turn the heat off to record. It's like less than 20 degrees here in Michigan today and very blowy. So if you hear something that just clicked on, it says the furnace so we don't freeze. But today we're going to talk about the victim is Reagan Michelle Simmons Hancock and baby, unfortunately. Because I mentioned at the beginning, this woman's a monster. She's not the monster. I do want to put that out there. She, perfectly lovely lady, just minding her own business. Now this happens on October 9th of 2020, so another newer case for me, which is generally not something I cover very often. And I always say the age of the victims in case anything with children bothers you. And she was 21 and her newborn baby was involved as well. So if you want to click off, that's fine. I get it. Stuff with the babies is just extra hard, I feel like. Now this takes place in New Boston, Bowie County in Texas. And the tiniest silver lining in the world is that it is an assault case. Now note, I'm gonna try to keep this shorter out of respect due to how it's rough. It's very rough. But let's start with, unfortunately, our victim. So Reagan Michelle Simmons was born November 14th, 1998 in Hope, Hempstead County, Arkansas, to her parents Jessica Brooks, and Brandon Simmons. She had 2 sisters and 2 brothers, and her parents would divorce and both remarry, so I don't 100% know which siblings are step and which ones are biological or half, but it just said 2 sisters and 2 brothers from what I could find. Now she seemed to be a really sweet and happy person. Her mom would, quote, look at her sweet smile, end quote, if she was having a bad day, which that is very sweet. Now I saw she loved sunflowers. I guess that's a sunflower. I have nothing sunflower-like to put up in honor of her. Now Reagan was also an active churchgoer, and she worked as a customer service rep. And in her obituary, it said she was an amazing wife and mother. Now, I don't quite know when she married, but her husband is Homer Hancock, and they had 3-year-old Kinley Grace with their baby girl, Braxlyn Sage, on the way. Now, sadly, due to the life she was about to bring into the world, her life was taken. So enter just this monster of a woman. Taylor Renee Parker, the asshole of the century, or one of the many. There's many assholes. Now, I don't know exactly how the 2 women know each other. A general consensus I've seen is that either through Facebook and then Taylor took Reagan's engagement photos and wedding photos, or if it was just she did the photos then they became friends on Facebook. I'm not quite sure, but they weren't like super good friends. I don't even know if they could be classified as friends. Well, definitely not now, but before the incident, I don't even know if they'd be classified as friends outside of Facebook. I don't know. Now, when this happens, Taylor is 27, so she's 6 years older than Reagan. Now, I don't really know anything about her life. I hear she's like a pathological liar, and she's just not the best lady, but I didn't really care to dig into her background, or I don't really care to know, because sucks. Just know that she's genuinely always been a liar and a manipulator, and this comes into play, but she had a hysterectomy before these events. Just keep this in mind. Granted, you could probably already guess where this unfortunately may be going. Well, I guess I should add, she was married at one point. She got divorced, and I believe she had 2 children, which she very much lost custody of. Thank goodness. But yes, then she had the hysterectomy. Now, I guess, obviously after her divorce, Taylor met a new man, and she wanted to keep this man, because I guess he wanted to leave her, I'm pretty sure at least. But to get him to stay, she convinced him she was pregnant. Now, this girl, she did the whole shebang to try to get away with, like, faking her pregnancy. She was telling everyone she was pregnant. She was posting on Facebook, Instagram. She's posting all about her baby that's coming. She wore a fake belly. She even had a gender reveal party. And this went on for about 10 months. Now, they say pregnancy kind of is 10 months, like if you include like your body changing after you give birth, and like everything's kind of reverting back to normal and the baby's basically at your hip. But the baby should not really be in there for 10 months unless they're really late. Now, after these 10 months, which I guess in a sense her next step makes a little bit of sense, because she had plans to get induced, quotations around that, not really, on October 9th of 2020. And this was at a hospital in Oklahoma, of all places. Maybe it's to prevent anyone from coming with her if it was too out of the way. But if you remember the date at the beginning of the video, you know that it's far from the truth of what Taylor was doing that day. So this is where it gets rough. But that morning, on her induction date, Taylor drove to New Boston, Texas, where Reagan was alone, well, with her 3-year-old, and Taylor just did the unthinkable. She's just, okay, now it's really graphic, but I don't know the exact order of events, but it's known that Taylor would, I don't know if she necessarily broke in since Reagan knew her, but she would get into the house and she would stab and slash Reagan over 100 times. 100. She would also beat her with a hammer and then proceed to cut open her stomach and remove her baby. It's a terrible analogy to think of, but all I could think of when I heard the 100 times was in one of the newer Star Wars, I forgot which one, how Kylo Ren is very upset Luke Skywalker's there and he keeps ordering so much firing squad on him. Like, a person would not survive that, even a quarter of that. And it's like, do you think you got him? Do you really think you got her, Taylor? Like, it's just, why? Well, why any of it? But 100 times? Any of these things alone is way too much. But it's just all of them together, it's So Reagan was, because if you're wondering, like, was the baby even like in baby shape yet? Like, was it able to come out? But Reagan was 34 to 35 weeks or 7.5 months along. So a bit early for baby. Obviously, baby was not ready to come out. It was forced out. And it's thought baby, which they planned on naming, as I mentioned at the beginning, Braxlin, it was thought she was alive for a short time after being ripped out of her mother's womb. Pretty sure it's a big point of contention and arguments in the trial. We're not there yet. But baby, I'm pretty sure was alive, because Taylor would get back in her car with the baby and speed off. Meanwhile, Reagan is alone on the floor dying, or already dead at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if she was already gone. With her 3-year-old daughter just there. Like, I don't I don't even know, I don't know how I would process it at the ripe age of 26. Like, I don't know what's going through a 3-year-old's mind when this happens. I don't know if she saw everything or if she may have been in another room. It's just disgusting. Now, I say this with quotations. Luckily, that same morning, Reagan's mom did come over a little bit after this happened, saw her daughter obviously stabbed to death, called the police, obviously, and they came over and they started investigating. And around the same time, Taylor was pulled over for driving like a freaking mad woman. Now, the officer who pulled her over found her holding the baby that she stole with the umbilical cord still attached. Now, Taylor, just being the genius she is, shoves the other end of the umbilical cord down her pants to make it look like she had just given birth. And she told them she had just given birth on the side of the road just now. And that's why she was speeding and driving crazy, so she could get to the hospital, because her baby wasn't breathing. So the police, seeing all this and just baby not breathing, got them an ambulance and she was taken to a nearby hospital. And unfortunately, baby Braxlin was declared dead on arrival. She did not make it. And just during this whole hospital ordeal, Taylor was being her weird ass self and was refusing any form of help or care, which you technically have the right to do that, but if you were panicking, like in the healthcare workers' minds, like if you were panicking to try to get to the hospital, save you and your baby you just gave birth to, I feel like you'd want to get checked out. But she was refusing. Eventually, she did cave. I don't know if it was more coercion or what it was, but they did examine her and determined, yeah, she did not give birth. You'd be able to tell if a lady just gave birth. Now, I think the hospital staff were being a bit sneaky, like not letting Taylor know about what they found, because the police were starting to connect Taylor showing up with baby, not giving birth, and Reagan being found dead without a baby. So police were contacted, and when they arrived and confronted Taylor, she changed her story, which, are we surprised? No, I am not. So now Taylor, instead of, giving birth on the side of the road, she changed her story completely to saying she had been in a physical altercation with Reagan and then took her baby, which is, totally better story. Makes way more sense. So she thankfully was taken into custody, and Reagan's family now knew where her baby was. And unfortunately, that baby Braxlin did not survive. So, going ahead a little bit, Reagan and her baby Braxlin were laid to rest on October 17th of 2020 in New Boston, Texas. And in lieu of flowers, they asked for donations for her living daughter, Kinley Grace, for her care. Her obituary was very sweet to read. It's so sad to read because she should be a year older than me right now. She should be alive and well with her 2 baby girls. But she's not, because Taylor's a freaking crazy woman. So let's go to the trial, because obviously Taylor went to trial. They got a lot of evidence that Taylor did this. Now, it did take a hot minute to get to trial due to, well, it's 2020, COVID, all that slowed like every court date and legal proceeding down. So it began on Monday, September 12th of 2022. So it's just, 2 years later, then more than 140 witnesses took the stand over the 26 days of testimony. It was said this is the longest jury trial ever in this county. Oh, and when I mentioned one of the longest articles I've ever seen, I'm just gonna link it, that dealt with the trial, because it breaks down each single day of the trial. If you were really interested in that, I obviously will not be going into that much detail because no one wants to hear me talk that much. It would be a lot, but it's from KTAL News, and I'll link that in the description box in case you were interested in knowing what happened day by day. So I will be doing like some key points that I noticed. But Taylor's past of lying, fraud, and even a murder for hire plot, which I found out, were brought up in trial. Which, fair. I don't know, the murder for hire wasn't related to Reagan. Obviously Taylor just did that herself. That's a whole other thing. We're not gonna deal with it right now. Now Taylor was found competent to stand trial. Granted, I think she's batshit crazy, but they didn't ask me. Now, many people claimed they knew she wasn't pregnant, or they knew she was likely faking it, but they never confronted her about it, or did anything about it. Know if because like they were afraid of her, or if they just thought like she'd give up the ghost at some point. I feel like someone should have confronted her. I feel like maybe it could have been a different outcome for Reagan and her baby, but obviously we will never know. But she could have always pretended to be pregnant later, and it would have been someone else's baby she tried to steal. It's just, Taylor seems like the type of person to just get crazier and crazier until they do something that gets them caught and lands them in prison. Anyway, Reagan's husband, Homer, would take the stand at one point, and it was rough. Reagan's mom also had to take the stand to describe finding her daughter, the condition she was in. And then the piece de resistance, I guess, to the defense was Taylor would take the stand and said Reagan begged her to take the baby because she was afraid she was dying. Yeah, I don't think that's what happened. I'm sure Reagan was definitely afraid she was dying, you know, after you stabbed her 100 times, Taylor, but I don't think she just asked you to take the baby. Now, on October 3rd or 12th, I may have gotten the dates confused, the jury took less than an hour to reach a guilty verdict. Which, are you surprised? No. I'm surprised it took more than a half hour, honestly. Now, it took the jury another hour on November 9th to give her the death penalty. And I guess she was shaking and crying when she got this verdict. Which, you know what? I think she deserves that. She deserves to feel afraid, just like she probably, how she made Reagan feel in the last moments of her life. Now, Taylor was transferred to the woman's death row at Mountain View Unit in Gatesville, Texas. And she is one of 7 women on death row in Texas. Now, Taylor has tried to appeal her conviction. It didn't work. Her execution date has not been set, which, if you really know anything about death row, some people die on there from like old age or disease. Like, it's not necessarily them being executed, because the other 6 ladies on the list have all been there 20 to 30 years already. So I don't expect an execution date anytime soon, or I don't know if they ever will do one. Death row confuses me, with just how the process and like people will be on there for decades. It confuses me a little bit. Now, according to a singular article I found, take this with a grain of salt, because I believe it's an Australian article. I don't know how I stumbled upon it, but apparently Taylor only wants to appeal the death sentence. That's why she was shaking and crying. But she, I guess, has no desire to ever leave prison. She says, quote, "My place is here. I stand firm on the belief you do not deserve to have something you took from another," end quote. Now, I don't know if she actually said this, or if she actually feels this way, or if she's trying to gain sympathy, because if that's the case, why would you take someone's life, or why would you take someone's baby and then the baby's life? It just sounds like you wouldn't deserve to have the baby based off your own logic, Taylor, if she truly said this. I couldn't find another article that talked about this, so I very much take it with a grain of salt. And it has been said Reagan's family found a tiny bit of solace in getting justice, and that Taylor is on death row. And I honestly don't know how to end this. This case completely sucks. Taylor being on death row is never going to bring Reagan and baby Braxton back. Nothing will. It's just, I can't imagine. Well, I don't want to be in Taylor's head. No. Just what made her think, like, this is fine. I'm gonna get away with this. This is fine. This is my new baby. I don't understand how people found competent to stand trial, but then they do shit like this. I know there's a difference between like people who are completely like they don't know where they are, that situation. It's just, are they really all there when they're this evil? You know what I mean? Anyway, I just hope she never steps foot out of a prison ever again. If she gets executed or not, I guess time will tell. But I guess that is it for today. I was going to link the GoFundMe that they created for in lieu of flowers at Reagan's funeral, but that GoFundMe has been closed. I'm guessing since it was just for funeral costs and that initial just extra stressy time. I don't know if they have another one. I didn't see another one, but I was going to list a GoFundMe, but it is now closed. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. She completely sucks. What do you think about Taylor? Do you also think she sucks? Please do. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. I hope you liked the tree to look at, and I will see you next time. Bye guys.